happening. Okay, I think we're getting it. Yeah. I don't know why literally the exact same button that I've been hitting the whole time works, but I guess I'd hit refresh. All right, I think we are officially live. All right, cool. There we go. All right, we are live. Give me 1 minute. Got it. Very cool. All right. Let me see if I can open the chat before we go ahead and start talking. Okay, cool. Muted. Let's go. All right, super cool. All right, we are officially live. I decided to do something different and put it in a different side of the room. So if you guys prefer this, let me know. I'm pretty indifferent either way. Everybody, welcome. We've officially hit 10,000 subs, and we have a special guest today who I will introduce very shortly. Ndewo, everybody. Ndewo. We're using Zoom, so it's hard for me to tell how many people are in here. Usually I wait till we hit a certain number to start, but I don't even know if I have that privilege today. Oh, okay, I can see it. I can see it here. Okay, so we are at 6. When we get to about, what number are we gonna do, Odugo?
15. I don't know.
15, okay, you're feeling ambitious. Okay, when we get to 15 people, I'll go ahead and start today's discussion. We have hit 10,000 subs. Okay, we are at 7 right now, by the way. Yeah, whoa, who's all in the room? I see SC. Who is all in the room? Once we hit 15, I'm going to break the orgy and we are going to go ahead and begin. We are at 7 still. Those of you who are in the room, if you want to go ahead and get started, post this everywhere you can, share it on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, wherever you frequent. Send it to anybody who you think would be interested in this topic. For those who are new, my name is Derek Ofadarongwa. I discuss Igbo cosmology, culture, and spirituality on this channel. I pick certain topics in ancestral knowledge and worldview, and I break it down as clearly and as in-depth as possible. So if you're new, check out the videos that I have. The full-length videos are some of these lives where I come and I quickly explain a topic or answer questions I've been getting. Thelema, Ibokwenu, hey, Ibokwenu, Udochi, hey, Udochi, we made it. We made it. Yeah, so Udochi was texting me. I thought you were going to go live. Doing this whole Zoom thing has been an ordeal technically. And but we made it. So we're here. When we get 15 people, according to Odugo, who is my guest today, and she'll be sharing her story, and you'll be seeing why I thought it would be a good idea to have her here. But yeah, Odugo is here. She says when we hit 15, we are going to go ahead and start. Kedukwano, Ndewo, we made it. Yeah. Yeah, we made it. Who else is in the room? We are at 11. All right, we are at 11. We are at 11. 13. Odugo, I think this is about to be it. All right. Let me know what you guys think about this setup. I'll probably change all this out and put something not office-y looking, or whatever this is attempting to be back here. I think I have a slight cold, so pardon the sniffling today. We are at, we just dropped to 12. I guess I have to say something. Okay, so today we've hit 10,000 subscribers, so we're going to be celebrating it today. And then I have a special guest, and I'll be explaining who this special guest is, and she'll be letting us know what her story is and things like that. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. But she said we have to get to 15 people before we start. So right now we are at 12. For those who are new, again, my name is Derek Ofadarongwa. I discuss Igbo spirituality, cosmology here. So if you're interested, hit subscribe. As always, the best way to support the channel is at patreon.com/themedicineshow. Let me do something smart here. Give me just a minute. It's at patreon.com/themedicineshow. all of my patrons have full access to my in-house library, which has hundreds of books, articles, journals, different things you can use to research our ancestral spirituality, cosmology, and history. If that's something that's interesting to you, then go ahead and join at patreon.com/themedicineshell. And we are officially at 10,000 subscribers. We are officially 10,000. Mr. Ha 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 says, congratulations on 10K. Thank you very much. Thank you for being with the movement from the very beginning. Oh, thank you, Nandi. I appreciate it. Yeah, my son came to congratulate me. All right. We are at 11. Odugo, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
Okay. Odugo, do you want to start when we get to maybe 12?
Yes, that's a good idea.
We just hit 13. All right, let's begin. All right, I'm going to go ahead and break the orgy, and I'm going to introduce my guest shortly after that. All right, so let us go ahead and begin. Okay. What I have in my hand is 2 lobes of bitter cola, and this is considered orgy. I just as a I guess talk to your doctor. I don't know what people are like, but I put this in water, and then it produces like its own water, or it mixes with the water, and then I add that to my coffee in the morning, and it is phenomenal. So that's just something I do. It helps clear phlegm. It's very good for your heart and something else I can't remember, but it's got a lot of medicinal purposes. But it is one of the things our ancestors chose to use to represent themselves. So if I am holding this, I am representing my ancestors, and in representing my ancestors, I'm going to go ahead and do the Wa Oji ceremony. Let me go ahead and begin. Okike Ruwa, Alawala, ala nne mmadụ na nne mmụọ, ala na-enye ndụ na-enye nke ọma dị n'ụwa. Ọjị abịala. I'm breaking Ọjị, thank you. Ọjị m ji n'aka bụ ọjị ndị iche na ndị ọkpụ, ọjị akọ na ụba, ọjị ije ọma na ije ndụ na ije ụwa. Ọjị m ji n'aka bụ ọjị ngọzi, mana unu nyere m ezi n'ụlọ m nwere ike iji, anyị nwere ike iji ama onwe anyị. Onye ka m ji na-enye ndụ nkele. Ọjị nke bụ ọjị otu obi anyị ga-eji na-aga n'ije ụwa. Otu a ka ọ ka dị n'Eke, n'Orie, n'Afọ, na Nkwọ. Ise. All right, let us go ahead and go. So Odugo, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Ndewo, everyone. My name is Odugo. I'm a student of Kedu, and I've been a subscriber with Medicine Shell for a good few years. I'm really excited to get to kind of be on this live and get to talk with y'all and talk with Jared.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for that. So Odugo, this quarter I decided to teach because like it's hard to pull me away from teaching. So I decided to teach Igbo 1 at Kedu, which is one of the reasons why it's taking so long to do the rest of the videos. But I was teaching it, so one of the students was Odugo, and I noticed that Odugo had been coming to class, every day, very diligent, very serious about learning this. And one of the things we do at Kedu is that every student has a project that, their teacher gives them, but is based off of kind of who they are and what resonates with them and that kind of thing. And Odugo sent me this email saying that, hey, I can't do my project because, I don't know, Odugo, do you want to go ahead and tell the story there? Or
yeah, I basically was realizing that I've been a part of the Kedu classes because it it means a lot to me and it's something I can connect with. But outside of Kedu, I've been going through some really difficult stuff. As of about a couple months ago, had to I was getting away from a situation of domestic violence. It had lasted many years. And then with me separating from it, I had gone through being homeless. And with that, it's just not something where I kind of had the mindset where I could focus on something outside of, the class lectures, which the thing I'd gotten for a project was I wanted to study a traditional Igbo dance and kind of use the Igbo I'd learned to describe it. But any of the kind of creative pursuits that I had totally fall to the wayside with going through that kind of instability and with going through that kind of difficulty. So I felt being transparent was was the best, and just kind of in being in a situation like this for the first time, it's something where you definitely end up trusting yourself to be honest and be transparent. So that's where I ended up sharing that with Derek about my about what I was going through in this time.
Yeah, no, and thank you for that. When you sent me it was outside of the story itself being something that would take you back. It was not something I could have predicted because, like I said, you were showing up every day. You were, picking up things very quickly. So when you sent me that, it kind of just made me think, how are you doing all of this? How are you doing all this going through what you're going through, right? And I mean, I had no clues as to what was going on, other than like every now and then, like you'd have a different background. But I think, okay, maybe she's in a different room in the house. But then, the full thing comes out. So let me ask you, outside of, if this situation wasn't going on, what do you typically do? Because you did mention that your project was going to be oriented around dance.
Yes. So what I have always kind of had as a passion and something I felt really spiritually drawn to was learning West African dance in general, as well as um, traditional dances from Igbo land. I first kind of experienced learning it from different practitioners, going to different dance workshops where I live. And sometime in the summer, I was able to experience for the first time with live drumming. And it was all the teacher I had, she was from Senegal, and then another one from Gambia, but just getting to kind of be immersed in it in a way that was different than learning dances from YouTube or from classes without live drumming. I really felt a very strong connection to it from that moment. And my skill in it was just very apparent to my teachers and my classmates without me having had like an upbringing in it. I was born and raised in the US, and my parents were um, very Americanized more so. So I didn't really experience kind of growing up around going to traditional functions where that was super common. But within just practicing it for a couple months, I was in the place where different teachers of mine had asked me to like join their performance teams or join them doing cultural showcases in my area. It was kind of one of those things that reminded me of something I picked up from one of the medicine shell videos, like when you kind of are doing something that's on the path of your chi, your skill in it will end up being very apparent, or your talent in it will show up very quickly. And that certainly happened with me. So I felt a very strong, that's a very strong signal for me to kind of continue in that. So that's something that is my number one passion, is studying and learning more about that.
That's dope. There's an ilu that says that everybody's chi creates them for the work it gives them. Everybody's chi creates them for the work it gives them. And whatever that work is, or however an individual defines that particular thing, you notice it that when the person is in that element, there's an entirely different light that comes out from the situation. So that's cool. So since dancing is in your path, and obviously African dancing, like you said, There's one of the things that I'm trying to work on being a better messenger of is the importance of dance in our traditions, Igbo traditions and many African traditions alongside. Um, what what, if anything, did you pick up from your teachers as far as the West African dance?
One thing I picked up was this was from a Senegalese teacher I had studied with, was that a good bit of dances were in kind of celebration and veneration of warriors. One that I learned that was traditionally, it would be performed by village women when men who were hunting or who were going to a battle would return to the village. And some of the motions they're doing are kind of in celebration. And it's something that served as kind of something very honorable for the women to do. And also was something that the whole village would take pride in, based on, the best dancers of their village being able to showcase their skills. Um, I always found that was a really cool, just kind of form of expression. And another one I had learned from a teacher of mine who's from Benin was that there were certain dances that would represent spiritual entities. Like in his example, it was Orishas, like he's from Benin, but would take on different styles. So there were certain dances he would do, one to represent, I want to say Sango, but just there's different movements, and that would be something a little bit similar to how masquerade culture is kind of demonstrating how different spiritual entities would be acting. And I always thought that was very cool, because that's almost a form of prayer. It's like a form of like kind of just celebrating and still giving praise to ancestors and to those ancestral energies.
Yeah, it's we had a discussion on our group study, and it was about spirit possession. I think it was the one about spirit possession anyways, in the Patreon. So on Patreon we're discussing this, and one of the things that came up is we watched this video where I want to say it was in Benin, but it was the process of an individual performing what we call Igbo Mo in Igbo culture, where you release your own conscious and your own spirit and allow yourself to be overtaken by the spirit of another force. So typically in our culture, this is one of the main ways you use to communicate with the forces of nature and more spirits, right? So when they come into you, one of the things that, from the outside in, you'll notice immediately is they move through dance. They don't step. They'll move through dance. Some of them will speak through dance and things like that. And then if you look at traditions like Insibidi or Uli, which I actually want to talk to you about because I know you have your eyes over there too. If you look at traditions like Insibidi or Uli, Insibidi, while we talk about the written form a lot, the core of Insibidi is dance, because Insibidi is a play, right? The word means play, something along the lines of play. And when the symbols go to represent certain movements, I actually had a student at Kedu, for his project, he had noticed a correlation or he had noticed something that we can't completely understand, or if you, let me put it this way, if you look at Insibidi symbols as movements and dances, it gives an entirely different meaning, and it's actually way easier to read that way than to read it as like how we would read like written script. So I'm hoping he finishes this project, but like he's figuring it out. So you took a particular interest with Uli. What made you go over there? And then for those who don't know, if you can explain Uli, that would be cool too.
Yes. So to explain it, Uli it's a form of kind of artwork and writings similar to Insibidi, but from what I've read, it was practiced mainly and kind of held as a practice mainly by Igbo women. And it would be used to create artwork, because the specific, scripture letterings would also kind of be expanded and combined in very abstract artistic ways with color. So it would end up forming art patterns on on painting, on buildings like as decor, on and also a very specific one would be on in henna patterns that were done on the body. I kind of encountered it just kind of researching henna in general one day. I always was fascinated by the more East African and Indian styles of it. And I don't even recall how, maybe just like the YouTube algorithm or something, but somehow I got to these videos about uli henna, and there were very few people had done studies on it because culturally it's considered like a dying art. Like it was something that was just held by women, kind of carried in the person to person tradition, not so much documented as much until now. But I was very fascinated by uli henna that would be done, because it would be said that dancers from different villages would kind of do henna patterns on their body as something that's kind of representative of where they're from. And then they would travel to other villages and perform, and that would kind of go kind of in hand with the specific dances that kind of showcase their specific village. Some of the designs for uli also match some of the designs for that you'll find in scarification, those patterns. And I was really interested in it because there was a woman there was an African American woman in the US who she had done a study of it as like a kind of a PhD dissertation type thing. But it was very interesting because there are a few videos of women kind of going to Nigeria and using spoken English to meet the women who's kind of still practice the art and go into just kind of discussing it, and then it kind of becomes, a nice historical artifact once that's documented. So that fascinates me a lot, and the fact that it is a kind of lesser known art that's losing its popularity was part of my inspiration to study Igbo language, because my parents did not teach me, but the thought of being able to learn it and then kind of learn some of those more hidden practices that we have is something very fascinating to me. So I have a lot of enthusiasm toward that.
Cool. Yeah, the Uli thing really fascinates me. I have a theory, but it's a theory right now because I have to confirm it in two places. But if you say Uli in my dialect, it's Uri, and Uri is like dance music, that kind of thing, right? I strongly believe they're connected, but again, like you said, that is one of the hardest things to learn about right now because the tradition is kind of on, its back legs. Like I'm sure there are just a few living individuals who understand it intimately or um, apply it, in the traditional way. So one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm looking for those people. If anybody knows them, go ahead and send me an email or something. But even recently, I was doing a video, and then this kind of goes into something that I'm kind of concerned about. I feel that the women's traditions in Igbo culture are the ones that are actually at being like at harm or the threat of going away, right? I feel like those are the ones. Oh boy, smoke alarm. Give me just a second. Sorry, guys. I'm gonna mute my mic so no. All right, so I've thrown all the batteries out of my smoke alarm. So, anyways, that's all I'm saying. I feel like a lot of the women's traditions are the ones that we need to make a conscious effort about preserving and bringing back. Because recently I was doing a video, or I'm working on my video on Akaraka, the palm reading, right? Which ties into Uli as well, and it ties into Insipidity and all these different things, but mainly Uli. And my dad was actually really helpful in this, so I'm really grateful for him for what he did. But he had to like comb and like do like he had to like crawl deep, deep, deep into different communities to find a person who still knew how to palm read in the traditional way, and so forth. The what you had read about Uli as far as an art form, is there anything that interesting that kind of stood out other than what you shared already?
I would say something that I did see that reminds me of what you've shared about Uli's connection to palm reading was that there would be different Uli artists where they would kind of be able to, a lot of the designs they made wouldn't just be kind of symbols, put in different places. Some of them would be like kind of thick lines that go along different kind of, I want to use the word like meridians of the body, like it kind of relates to how you would see where the chi actually flows through the body. There would be practitioners that could kind of see that, and that would kind of be what draws them to pick the specific symbols that they do. So I always thought it was really cool. Like if you see how certain other spiritual sciences show depictions of like chakras and like energy going between them, I've
Yeah.
seen Uli that does that. And I always thought that was really fascinating.
I'm so glad you said that. So, and I was kind of hoping you'd say that so I can go into this tirade. But um, there was a Divya who had taught me that the human body is covered in designs, but it's not visible. We can't see them. And that traditionally what Uli is certain women, is and why this is a female Divya for lack of better terms, but an is and why would go into a state of trance. And in that state of trance, or she had the natural ability, she would be able to see those lines. She can see those lines on each and every person. And when scarification is done, or when they're drawing Uli, these are the lines that they're actually representing for people who can't see them, right? And like you said, it shows the flow of an individual's chi throughout their body. But that the only lines, or a few of the only lines that we are able to see as people, or terrestrial people, I guess, are the ones on the palm. But these lines don't necessarily end at the palm. They extend through the entire body and they form patterns and things like that. Certain people have certain shapes on their foreheads, and that's where a lot of the symbols and stuff come from. Is that kind of what she was talking about, or?
That I didn't learn as much until you've described it in different videos and lives.
Okay,
Um,
cool. Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. So, but like I said, the fact that you've kind of kept your eyes on all of these things, despite everything that's going on, is really, I think it's inspirational. And it made me reconsider even like, I don't know, it made me reconsider a lot of things. I don't have the words for it, but it made me do a lot. But one of the things I wanted to do was think of a way to help. So I think the last time we had kind of talked about it, you told me that you have an apartment kind of on the way, correct?
yes.
Namdi, just wait, okay, buddy? Thank you. So you have an apartment on the way. Um, and I don't want to like, I don't want to like, the reason I didn't put your name on the title or face on thumbnail or anything like that, because there is a safety concern, um, as far as your story goes and things like that. So what I wanted to do, because you had also told me that the individual had also destroyed a lot of your belongings, correct?
Yes. In my situation, I had made efforts to relocate and was still kind of being threatened with if I were to try to completely cease contact with that person, they would do damaging things to me. They would hurt physically or then hurt themselves. And in getting support, such as like therapy and other things, to get to a point of doing that, that person had committed vandalism to my home, vandalism to my car, and the type of vandalism involved, it just involved spraying bear mace into where I lived, which was just kind of a studio, and it went into and destroyed everything that I had in there, along with having myself been attacked and having to get hospitalized. Um, but the nature of where I encountered a lot of difficulty was that when I was with this person for many years, I was under incredible financial restriction and wasn't allowed to do amass savings or amass credit. And that led to, when that had happened, I became unable to stay where I was at due to the safety concern from that person. And I wasn't unable to get immediate, approval to somewhere to live because credit is such a barrier to relocation nowadays. So it took about 5 months of me looking for assistance to get rehoused in a way where that type of thing would be something I could get approved for. But nevertheless, I came out of the last place I lived with nothing but a backpack and 2 suitcases worth of possessions. Everything else got destroyed when he vandalized it. So that makes it difficult. It makes me happy so much to have a new home, but I'm starting off with nothing more than like a sleeping bag and like a couple suitcases of my clothing.
Okay. Odugo, so like I said, when you told me the story, I was trying to think of what we can do to help as a community. And so the idea I had was we're gonna do a GoFundMe so that you can get a bed and couches and just anything else you need to get yourself started, so you can continue doing the things that your chi is guiding you to do, so that you could be safe and you can have reprieve from what you've been going through. So I opened the GoFundMe. Renda says, I apologize. So Renda says, Renda, one them, thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. So you can actually donate to this link here. Here. Let's help. I'm just gonna put OO. If you guys see OO, it's what I'm using for her initials because there is a safety concern as far as revealing the full name and everything like that. So I've pinned it to the top. The link says, let's help OO. I set a goal of $3,000. If you guys can donate anything you can, that would be great. Once I get off the live, I'm gonna send something to Rena says, Father and Waka do. The group and they will run. I feel like it's been a long time. But yeah, so the link is up there so we can help out Odugo. I'm not going to use full names. In fact, I didn't want to use it there first, but we're going to be helping Odugo using the initials OO. I will probably take this live down after about 2 weeks because there is a hiding situation and like a restraining order situation, and I don't want to help anybody who wants to wish harm. But let's help her with what's going on right now by seeing what we can donate. Yes, I know. Do you guys get it handled? Thank you, buddy. All right. All right. So yeah, that's up there. Odugo, do you have anything you want to say or share?
Just thank you to any of you who've heard my story and can support or have the kind heart to consider supporting. It's been great being able to be in a position to try to seek help, and I am thankful to be in a safer place.
Okay. Reginald is asking, how can I donate from Africa? Does she have a Bitcoin wallet? Do you have a Bitcoin wallet, Odugo?
I do not. I will
Okay.
figure out how to get one in the future, though. I
Absolutely.
appreciate the sentiment for sure.
Does PayPal work in the country you're in? I put a GoFundMe link at the top. I'll post it here, Reginald. I'll post it again. That is the link for helping out Odugo. If you want to donate, or if you're the country you're in that you're able to donate through GoFundMe, do it there. If PayPal works in the country you're in, let me know. I'll send my PayPal, and then I'll just add your donation to what I contribute. Um, but yeah, thank you, Reginald. I appreciate that. I know that in Africa, for no reason, a lot of the financial things don't work. So like, I've had a lot of people try to reach out to me in Nigeria, say they want to become patrons. I'm trying to, if you're in Nigeria, you want to be a patron, I'm trying to figure out a way to make it work. And it's difficult, but I've told a few of you guys, just give me some time, and I've been trying to figure it out. So I thank you guys for your patience. Odugo, but let's do this. I wanted to actually ask you what the experience has been like learning Igbo then, in general.
Yes, I had wanted to join KDU for maybe this semester started in October,
Yeah.
but I had wanted to join it since probably early 2022. But I I really do appreciate that with the lessons. It starts off with how to do introductions and greetings,
Mhm.
and um, we learn mainly in the central. We learn it in the central dialect, but the way that you'll when you teach Derek, you'll share all the different ways of saying the same thing. Like certain questions for like asking people information. Like there's maybe two or three different ways you can say like what, or just kind of the words for what you're doing, inquisitive statements. So that's just super helpful to kind of hear it and learn it really quickly. And for me, I can compare it to having learned, I took French in high school, and I'm at the point within 3 months of Kedu that I was at like maybe a full school year into French language. Like this is within 2.5 months.
Say,
Less time because French I took then 5 hours a week. This has been three. So yeah, I'm very impressed with kind of how easy it is, and it's very kind of free flowing and conversational. Like I don't know to give an example is like we'll kind of do introductions, and then we'll learn from hearing an example of like what Derek, what you had done during the day. You'll share that in like a couple minutes in Ebo, and kind of doing that over and over, you start to learn a lot more um, like everyday language type of Evo. That's what I guess I'm trying to say, as opposed to like starting with the alphabet, or like as opposed to starting with alphabet and numbers, like the things that you kind of see typical of other language classes, or typical of if you're trying to learn Igbo off of just random YouTube videos, which I tried at first, and it was very, very difficult.
yeah,
Um,
we all
that's
had
what
that phase.
I,
Yeah. Go ahead though. Sorry.
oh yeah, no. I had done it in that way, and then another way was maybe when I was like a preteen, I had gotten an Evo language cassette tape, literally a tape, and with the little booklet where you like hear the sentence and then you try to repeat it. And it's like, even though that helps to hear it, it's like there's no variety in the way of natural speech. Because like in any language, you could ask the same question or say the same statement two or three different ways,
Yeah.
and the recipient is expected to still understand and answer, which they can answer in two or three different ways, and they're all grammatically correct, even if some of the terms are different. So you kind of are able to, what's the word? You insert that reality into the classes in a way that makes it super realistic. Um, and also there's addition of that, we have the option to have everyday speech with an additional language tutor. Like they'll contact us on WhatsApp, and we can have conversations with them as up to like 6 days a week. So that's one thing most other classes don't include. They'll just do lectures. Like we have the addition of getting to speak with a language tutor who is just another person my age, who we can pick the level of complexity of the conversation. Some of my classmates have done like video chats, like cooking Nigerian food with me. Favorite thing. It's like it's very innovative, and it's very like scalable to your level. So that's what I found really impressive. Because in my Ebo 1 class, there's people who are anywhere from not any Igbo ancestry at all, no knowledge of the language, all the way to people who are like, oh, I've listened to my parents and family speak it my whole life, but I'm bad at speaking it myself. Like it actually does accommodate all of those levels within that Igbo 1 class. So that's been really, really awesome.
I appreciate it. He said, what did you grow up hearing it? Because like you're picking up things really fast. And so usually when this happens, I'm thinking that there's like a history of like maybe I used to speak it and I forgot kind of thing.
I never spoke it. And I would never really have it spoken to me either. I would overhear adults speaking it. Like I would overhear my mom and dad speaking very quickly in Igbo to each other. But if I were to come into the conversation, we all immediately switch to English. And this is while we're in America. And then when it comes to hearing Igbo language in Nigeria, I'd only visited there twice, once as like elementary age kid, once as a middle school age kid. So I've
Mhm.
only spent maybe like 3 months of time in Nigeria, But even at that time, I would hear a little bit of just like elders speaking full Igbo to each other. And then anyone like 40 and under would be speaking either pidgin or speaking
Yeah,
English.
yeah,
So but my cousins who were my age, I had lots of cousins, like they were all speaking English because they had TV. And in fact, they were obsessed with English in American culture. So
yeah,
um,
yeah.
I never knew more than maybe like 10 sentences, maybe like 5 sentences worth of Igbo, and I used to know how to count from 1 to 10. That was the most I ever learned up to me starting Kedu.
Yeah, no, when I go home, I'll speak to very small children and like elders in Igbo, but I don't bother with anybody in my age range because then they start that whole, oh, you said that wrong. And it's like, sure, I said that wrong, but now you're chopping the conversation up. I'm trying to figure out where I can buy some curry or whatever, that kind of thing, where I can get some rice. So I usually try to keep it within those age ranges, but completely same experience. Um, I've been a little luckier. I got a chance to speak it. I was a speaker as a child, though, according to my best friend Ike, who told me that because I told him I'm trying to relearn Igbo. I'm trying to get back to where I was. He's like, "Oh no, you were never good." He's like, "You were never good. You're better now than you were when you were little." And so, but I thought I used to speak it. According to him, I didn't. But what does he know? Yeah, so it's been a relearning thing because what happened was I've shared this story, I think, in one of my videos. When we came back to America, um, we lived in like a town where we're the only like black people, like only minorities, only whatever, right? And just because of the job my dad had. And yeah, so we had these teachers who didn't understand what we were like, who didn't understand us, right? And so they told my dad that we have to practice speaking English at home, even though we spoke English and we spoke English at home, that kind of thing. And my dad was like, he doesn't want us to fall behind in school. So he's like, okay, from now on, let's not speak Igbo. We're going to speak English. And then it created this kind of weird thing in my like with me and my siblings where we started feeling strange about speaking Igbo, like we're going to get in trouble or something. I don't know how to explain it. Kind of a weird subconscious thing. Yeah. Um, Almost like because I remember. Let me not tell that story. It's too crazy. But yeah. So what actually helped me start learning again was the channel, right? And so doing the channel and then like throwing little Igbo in here and there, and then doing my Iwaji and all that stuff, which you have recently learned, right? The Aji Iwaji ceremony. Scale of
Yeah,
1 to 10, how able are you to do that?
I want to say I'm at like probably a 7, though there's
Damn.
creativity. Well, and that's what has me at pause because like I've only heard it once, and it was at this Evo community members meeting where I lived. But their level of it was like they can throw in ilus, and everyone's kind of nodding because like they can hear all the Evo. Like when I went, this was before Kedu, so I couldn't understand anything at all. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's a certain level of flair to it. It's almost like if you ever grew up in a Christian church and you're like a child and you get asked to do the prayer and you're like, it's not gonna sound nothing like what these adults do. I'm gonna try. It's like that feeling you get the first time you're asked to lead a prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So when I think about that compared to what I've seen with the ceremonies, I'm gonna rate myself like a comfortable 6.
That's
Yeah.
strong. Damn, 6 is very strong, especially for something you just picked up. So, and I believe it too, because like I said, um, the way that the language is coming natural to you, or how quickly you're learning and how fast you're moving, you not just you, but a lot of the people in the program as a whole, um, it's more than interest. There's something within that's coming out, I feel, right? So that is awesome. Odugo, okay, I'm gonna read some comments. Languages change over time. You can't expect Igbo accents to stay 100% the same in the US, UK, and Nigeria. Mazi, let me tell you, it's not my space to speak, right? Because I'll just say, oh, you're trying to justify speaking your Americana, right? But it's funny to me, right? Where do we draw the line between you're speaking it wrong and dialect, right? Because half of these dialects, you ask them, they'll tell you they're not Igbo. So I don't know where we draw all these lines. Maybe I'm speaking American dialects, whatever. But I'm trying to speak the original one, and I'm trying to get as good as possible and continue to grow throughout my life. But Mazi, I understand what you're saying. Parents gotta live and let live. He said there are many bilingual, multilingual families all over the world. African immigrants to the West have no excuse to not teach their children. That is very true. Odugo, why do you think we're having this issue where parents aren't teaching kids? Like, what do you think that is?
Think it's very similar to what you grew up with, where either there's an outside encouragement to like ensure your kids have perfect English, or there's like a genuine kind of hope to just maximize your kids' success. And I'll go with my example. Like my parents, they spoke English. Both of them came over here. Like my dad got a college scholarship. So like after studying, well, he played soccer. Like after finishing school, he was getting jobs, you know, in like a corporate world type thing. And same with my mom, they would really catch hell over their strong Nigerian accents.
Mm,
And on top of that, Nigeria was having some really, really negative press at the time. Like this is like the very start of the whole Nigerian internet scammer era.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it ended up being just very like not so much a big negative, but it was like you don't want to add it on to like the loose discrimination you're going to get. Not that, you know, it's good to try to change yourself to avoid the inevitability of discrimination from Americans, but like if you're trying to be like, I'm going to maximize my children's risks of avoiding what I could not avoid, that's where I think my parents were motivated because they were just very, what's the word, pro assimilation. Like
yeah,
it's fortunate because like at least now everyone's got a little bit more social freedom to take pride and kind of reverence in their cultural differences. But at least when my parents were coming here, that's like mid 90s or so, it they felt it behooved them to ensure their kids had no accent. So like as I know y'all have seen, I have no accent whatsoever. And yeah, I can see where they felt that that would be useful. Like I've experienced good opportunities based on having a neutral speaking voice, and it stinks that people can judge like that or that it'll affect how you get ahead if you're going to kind of the professional lens, but it
yeah,
does inevitably. So I can see where they decide that, though I do disagree with it. Like I'm gonna teach my kids Igbo when I have kids one day.
yeah. You know, it's really interesting. I never considered it being a stigma thing, because like, a lot of what you were saying, or a couple of things within what you're saying I'd considered, but I never considered it being a stigma thing, but that does make a lot of sense. And I think sometimes, a lot of people say, oh, my parents didn't teach me so on and so forth. I think we sometimes underestimate what they had to go through. Um, One, they're Black. Two, they're not from the United States. They're immigrants. And then three, they sound different from the people around them, right? And they're not, they're pretty ambitious people. They're trying to maximize their experience here in the US. And once you open certain doors, suddenly it's why do you sound like that and that kind of thing. So being that a similar thing happened to me growing up, I never even considered that was like what was going on across the board. So, and then I do wonder because there's like a lot of people are saying kind of what you're saying, where okay, they're going to make sure to teach their kids. I do wonder how much of that is related to the fact that the general image of Nigerians is kind of becoming more diversified. Like it used to just be like scammers and soccer. Now it's like Afro beats, jollof rice, weddings, and then a little bit scammer here kind of thing. So I'm wondering if that is playing a role at all in kind of like helping people reclaim the language. I don't
I think so. We've come a long way with like promotion of the culture. I mean, social media helps a big deal with that.
know.
Um, I was at the gym the other day, and they were playing like these Afrobeat. They were just including Afrobeat music videos with all the other American music. I mean, like, a couple years ago, Burna Boy won the one of the BET awards. I see him. He's on like the Daily Show. He's on the late night talk shows. Like it's become super in fashion to have a like connection or knowledge of Afrobeat and of the Nigerian pop culture. So that's something I never kind of saw coming, but that's where we are now. So I mean, there's big artists here. Like I saw some single came out where Selena Gomez was doing a single with another like a big Afrobeat rapper. So like it's definitely a very respected other subculture compared to like American pop culture. Like it's just totally widened out. A lot of American artists do collabs with Nigerian artists, and then that's music gets played here. I think that's a large contributor because yeah, music culture, it leads to being what's popular on social media culture, and then it becomes just what especially young people become very familiar with. I even think that applies to like different Asian cultures. Like anime used to be something that was
Yeah.
very here, and now it's just the most common. And I think that's just really good for all parties involved. Like I think that's a really good level of multiculturalism we've got going here that is very different than like I guess how I would think of it, how it was like in the mid 90s. So I think we're in a place where yeah, I think it'll be good. And there's also a teeny bit more protections or just general knowledge of why it's bad to be discriminatory to people based on things like accents or um, different cultural upbringing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. The the music aspect and I guess the familiarity and things like that, people becoming more familiar. Yeah, it's on a different level now, and to the point where like you were saying, like just hearing Afro beats in like random places. I'll go to Target and I'll hear it. Um, yeah, I've heard it at the bank. Things I never thought would happen. Right? I didn't care growing up, so like I'd pull up to school blasting it. If you got my car, that's what we were listening to. That's just what it was. And so now that it's everywhere, it's just kind of it's interesting because it used to feel like my own little personal hidden thing, right?
Mhm.
But there's been a lot of advantages to it as far as, and then like you said, just society kind of just growing past, um, you know, like the 90s version of multiculturalism, right? Which was like, we're all going to be different colors, but we actually just have to fit this specific mold. But now, Asian people are bringing their full culture and or as much of it as we've seen. African people, so on and so forth. So that is awesome. That is awesome. I'm going to take more questions. Do deviants take any psychedelics like ayahuasca, or Iboga? I don't know any deviants that take psychedelics. I don't know any, but I don't think it is outside of the realm of possibility. It's not super popular. I'll say that. It's not super popular. If you knew what they knew, you wouldn't need a psychedelic. I'm from Jamaica. I'm of Jamaican descent. My ancestors had their ethnic languages beaten out of them. Yeah. I understand people adapt to their environments and cultural changes, but don't lose your language. Yeah. One of the things that scares me is losing my language within myself and then within my children too, or for my children too. So hopefully they have a passion for it or they at least want to know. Namdi signed up for Kedu Kids. He's one of the students. And him and another kid, I'm not going to say the kid's name because that's crazy. But the two of them are doing very good. Let's see, probably gonna live and let live. Language change over time. That's good. Okay. If you guys have any more questions, we can hang out a little longer. Otherwise, I'm going to hop. So if you guys are new to the chat, I put a link up there. We're gonna help Odugo out. Odugo has been, a subscriber to the channel for a long time, and she is also a student at Kedu. And the reason, again, I'm retelling this for those who are new. The reason I wanted to kind of stop and talk to her is because she was doing so well and was showing up to class every day. And I come to find out that she's currently battling, or is that the term, battle? But she's going through homelessness. She doesn't have a home right now, um, which blew my mind that somebody can be dedicated to something beyond their immediate circumstance, especially when their immediate circumstance doesn't have shelter, protection, all these things. So I put a GoFundMe link up there so that we can see if we can help her as much as we can. I'm gonna send my donation once I'm off the live. Um, and yeah, Odugo, you want to share anything else? A little bit about your story. I know you've told a lot already, but we're just kind of curious, that kind of thing.
Um, Basically, I'm in a place where I'll be relocated and was finally able to get housing starting like the start of February. And I do have a goal to keep studying African dance to a point that I could teach it. And also, I'm studying Igbo, so I can try to learn Uli art and then kind of document it in a similar way to how you'll do the medicine show. And I really think doing stuff like that's important because um, while there is like ability to research it, sometimes in Igbo language, you can find stuff on YouTube, but also having it in English or able to like share both really helps kind of spread the knowledge of it because there's, as we can tell, there's a lot of people that are interested in Igbo culture or are members of it through heritage, but don't understand the language yet. So I think that would be very, very useful. And I want to especially assist with even the knowledge of that Uli art practice because that was a female-led practice and it's losing its popularity. So I think that that's something my spirit's really drawn to, and I want to do that. So I'm also happy to, if I do start making it on YouTube or in other ways, I'll make sure to update, all of your people.
Oh yeah. Cool. Yeah, yeah. So you send me an invite to the channel, I'm all in. So that's very cool. And yeah, that was one of the things I really liked about your story. Again, despite what was going on, your eyes are still set on the future. And I said earlier that a lot of the traditions that are specific to women are the ones that we really need to focus on. And sometimes I don't feel like I as a fact, I'm not the messenger for that, right? So based on the short amount of time I've known you and gotten to know you, I think there's something there. And I'm grateful that you've taken on the mission of, um, putting your eyes towards dance and Uli and all these different things because they are more important than I can give words. So I appreciate that about you. So I want to see if there's any more questions before we hop off. Derek, can you please explain again what you said in one of your videos that your chi has to be present or consent in order for harm to come to you? Yeah. There's an ilu that says when your enemies are plotting against you, your chi is among them, right? There's a concept in Odinani known as Ogun. Ogun is, how do I put it this way? It's a lot for me to explain it alive, but your chi protects you. Regardless of what's going on, your chi protects you. So what happens, what doesn't happen, it's your chi that opens and closes the door to allow things to happen or allow things not to happen. A lot of things that happen are part of your your journey in the world, and they are supposed to happen the way they happen, be they good or tragic. If a lot of them are results of some type of broken accord with your chi, and so it is your chi. So for example, if people are quote unquote plotting against you, your chi is among them, and it's your chi that's going to allow their plan to work if it works, or not allow the plan to work if it doesn't work, that kind of thing. So it goes to tell us that a lot of what happens around us, if not everything that happens around us, is not 100% in human hands, or not 100% by the will of the individual. Things that happen will happen, and whatever it is, your chi played a part in that situation. So Empress Anne, I hope that kind of answers the question. We discussed this particular concept a lot on the group study. I think we actually had an entire sit down on it. So if you're a patron, just message me. I'll send you a link to the video where I go more in depth on the concepts. But the concept is Ogun. Ogun. There's an ilu that says, if an arrow hits you, or no, if an arrow hits you, it's if an arrow hits you, it's because your chi permitted it or something like that. So it's things like that. Your chi is not always the nicest person to deal with, or nicest force to deal with, but it's yours, so it's all good. What is Agon? All right, we're going deep. I am okay. Cool. All right, cool. What is Agon? Agon is the part of you that reincarnates. It is your link to the mind of the universe. It is your link to the mind of the universe. It is the immortal mind of the universe or the piece of the immortal mind of the universe that you have. So that part of you, when you pass away, it comes back into the world. It is also the part of you that has your mission in the world. So whatever it is, your purpose is, and I say mission, I don't mean like an end task. So a lot of it goes into the people you'll have around you, the type of community you'll engage in. Maybe if you have children or the person you marry, all of that, it's all connected to it. But it is that part of you that carries your reason to, you're not reason to live, but like purpose of living, and it brings it back into the world again and again and again. So right now we have checked my son, and my son is reincarnated from my grandfather. And we haven't checked my daughter yet. I wanted to physically be there, but I wasn't able to make it to Nigeria this year. So I'm gonna ask my dad if he can do it in my absence. But we're gonna check my daughter to see who she reincarnated from, or Onyowa. And this is the person who, when they passed away, their alcohol returned as the child. So I'm thinking it's my aunt Ngozi. My aunt Ngozi didn't have a good relationship with her mother, and right now my daughter is inseparable from, that's why you haven't seen her here. She is inseparable from her mother. She will not, it's the minute she wakes up, she just goes, looking for where she's at. So that's one clue that tells me she might be my auntie Ngozi. When we were also younger, my auntie Ngozi was in America with us too, and she had left me out in the snow, and I got hypothermia as a baby. And so I don't know if she thinks I'm mad at her because of that or what, but yeah, my daughter 100% prefers her mom. But it might be her, or it might be my cousin's mother. Those are the two people that passed around the time my daughter was born. So we're gonna check and see who it is, or it might be somebody from my wife's side, and that would completely explain why she's so attached. That is Adam. How did our ancestors identify these spirit forces in creation? There are so many. Scotty, that's a good question, but it's a question that's hard to answer. Udugo, do you have an answer?
It was how would our ancestors identify spirits?
Yeah, like because there's so many. There's so, like, these types of things.
Hmm. I would feel that at the point of kind of, I feel like there was a point kind of going way back ancestrally where people could kind of have a greater connection to hearing things, like not spoken language, but just kind of,
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to say like literally hearing voices in their head from like spiritual bodies.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's something I've read in the Bible or in some other books, but it's like there was a point when like humans and animals could kind of speak a similar language. I don't know if it was from dance or from kind of a psychic connection thing, but I feel like those spiritual energies would just kind of directly communicate with our ancestors at a time when they were more sensitive or receptive to that other type of language. I feel like that might be it, but
That
not
makes
sure.
sense. Yeah, I think, and in the Igbo tradition, they say the same thing too. There was a time where the connection is as easy as knowing your neighbor, right? That kind of thing. There are people who are still connected, and they are able to feel and see these things more easily than the average person, right? Um, the but it's somewhat of a hard question to answer, but it's also not a hard question to answer, because once you can see it, it becomes obvious, right? Once you can see it, it becomes obvious. And then it's also a matter of having a different understanding of the things you're encountering, right? So a lot of our ancestors, most of the rivers in our communities, some are male, but most of them are like female, right? And when you go by water, that energy you feel is similar to the energy you feel around a mother, right? So that's on the level I can feel it, just on a very basic level, that like, okay, I see why they said that. That makes sense. That's why I like to fish. It's very calming and soothing and that kind of thing. So, Scotty, good question.
One thing I
Go
similar
ahead.
to that is someone previously asked about ayahuasca. There was once I watched a documentary about that, and they were interviewing tribes in different parts of like Latin America and South America. And this kind of Western interviewer was asking them, how did you guys know which of the two plants you combine to make that? And it was a traditional healer. He was like, oh, the plants told us.
Yeah,
So like
yeah,
hear about how certain older tribes will be able to reference it like that. I feel like, okay, there was just kind of a receiving of that information, not like a
right.
perceiving of it.
Yeah, even as early as like I think it was the 50s or 40s. Have you seen the Atsilogo dance?
I've seen some videos of that, yes.
Yeah, where they all like pile up. So
Yeah,
the
the like experience
individual,
thing.
yeah, the individual that learned it was from Umunse, if I'm telling the story correctly. And he learned it, when you ask him where he learned it, he said he learned it from a tree, that the tree told him how to do that particular dance. And the way he was able to communicate with that tree was that he sat on top of the tree for multiple days without moving. And after a while, the tree began to tell, they began to speak to each other, and the tree was like, all right, this is how you, if you do this dance, you're gonna wow them, right? So yeah, so it's just a different way of understanding the world and connecting to different things and so forth. Some can appear to you alone, especially if the love is very strong. Donald, you're 100% correct. When it comes to reincarnation, no denying it's gender, sex specific. Men come back as boys, women come back as girls. It's a really good question. I get that a lot. Most of the time, 9 out of 10 times from what I see, everybody comes back the same gender. There are exceptions where an individual will come back as a gender that they were on in previous life. And what Igbo people will typically say, right, is that when a man comes back as a woman, he doesn't want to deal with the hardships of being a man. When a woman comes back as a man, she wants to be respected, unlike a woman. That's what they say, um, as far as one of the reasonings as to why this happens. So it's more rare than it is common, obviously, but most of the time it's woman, woman, man, man. But it can happen one way or another. I've had people personally tell me, "Hey, this is what's going on with me," and I don't doubt what they're saying. Um, Odugo, do you have thoughts on that?
I haven't experienced in my family lineage it happening. Like in my family, my mom had two girls, and with what she had said, the first daughter was a reincarnation of her grandmother, and
Mhm.
then myself, I'm the second daughter. I was a reincarnation of her mother, but I haven't, in my knowledge, met people where it's different. But I haven't heard that state saying either about like what the meaning might be. Though I can see that being a reason.
Yeah. So, some people say it happens. So you were your grandmother previously.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know much about her, or?
I do. My mom said that my grandmother was she said she was a moon priestess, and I don't know the word for that. It would have been in Igbo, so I'm not sure if that means Divya or if it meant some other thing.
Mhm.
But then like her characteristics, my mom said I matched a lot of them. Like she said her mom was like kind of a hippie type person, which makes sense for like 60s era. Like she said her mom was like a flower child, and she said that her mom was uh very very instructive to her, which kind of matched a dynamic my mom had with me. Like my mom was like the authority with raising me, but she always valued that I was in like school in the US, so there were certain things that I could teach to her from like a very young age, and she would always trust me with kind of helping her with certain like more academic related topics. And there's
Oh,
certain she didn't have as good that I was good at. Like I was very good at math, and so was her mother. She was like a businesswoman growing up. um so that was really cool to learn. um and then she said that when my mom was pregnant with me, that like she was always constantly talking to my mom's mom. Like my mom's mom was still in Nigeria, my mom was in America pregnant with me, and she would say that they were on the phone like 3 weeks or so before I was born, and the mom was like, "Oh, I'm going to come to America to be with you all. I'm going to come to America." And then she had passed away shortly after, and then I was born. And then at some point, by the time I had gone to Nigeria, I didn't learn about it until about then, but my mom had said, "Oh, that's who you are. That's Odugo." And there would be points when random elders would come up to me and just kind of look me in the eye, and they'd be like, "Odugo," like just not. I don't think I had met them. Maybe they had met me when I was even younger, but like
yeah,
I that was something I always found interesting with the reincarnation. Like they'll say that elders will kind of be
yeah,
familiar with you even though you don't think you've met them before. So it's like I don't know if I had the same face or not, but I just remember like two old aunties just looking me real close, and then they're like, "Oh," like really just familiar in their voice. So I always thought that was so cool. I definitely have strong belief in the reincarnation aspect of.
yeah. I was surprised. A lot of people don't know where they reincarnate from, and that was one of the things I was surprised about because I know for sure that if you go home or like even if you encounter people in your family, they'll just start calling you that name, you know. I'm not as lucky. The person I'm reincarnated from, or I am fortunate to be from him, but the man I'm reincarnated from was not close to either of my parents. He was my grandfather's friend and a very distant relative. But what I know was that he was a palm wine tapper, very intelligent man. And his son, during the wedding, or his son came to my wedding and he was like, I mean, we don't have best man, like a best man tradition at home, but he was basically my best man at one point because he just wouldn't he was just like locked in with me. And I really appreciate it. He called me his dad, right? Like, do you want anything to eat? That kind of thing. If anybody's ever done a wedding at home, like you're not going to eat anything or drink anything that whole thing, but he was there to be very considerate, or he was very considerate, and that was really nice, and so forth. But that was who I reincarnated from, and yeah. So, but right now we're trying to figure out where my daughter comes from. It's one of the traditions that I love more than anything. Um, let's go here. Give me just a second. I'm going to see if any more questions. Oh, Odugo, I forgot to mention, I don't know if you knew this, two things. You had mentioned the moon. So the moon is Onwa. So maybe she's is MY, Onwa, or is it Onwa, or something like that. But if you were a Debia in the previous life, you know you're a Debia in the current life too, right?
I'm excited to kind of learn more about that, and I gotta learn more about it from my mom too. Like those are the words she used, so I need to like have more conversation with her to get a better idea. I do know my grandma was that for a time, and then she became Christian upon marriage, and then she didn't do that anymore. So
Okay.
I definitely need to learn a lot more about that because my mom doesn't know as much about that with her obviously being after the marriage. So
Mhm.
I'm excited to do like researching, or if I end up learning Igbo and then going to Nigeria, then I can meet even more family or more of my mom's siblings and learn a lot more about it that way too.
Very cool, very cool. Yeah, if you're a Debia prior, you're a Debia now, or an AZY, like you say. So, quite similar story for me in OO. My grandfather promised my dad that he would come back as me, his son. Yeah, my wife's grandmother was, or great grandmother, or maybe great grandmother. Let me not say the story incorrectly. My wife's great grandmother saw her my wife's mother while she was pregnant and goes, "Oh, that's me in there. That's me in there." And then she ends up dying. The death was actually like an accident. It wasn't even like deliberate or anything like that, or deliberate. It wasn't like your normal, this person's currently sick, so they say, that kind of thing. It was she actually caught fire, but she said that she was here there prior to doing that, and then came back as my wife. So yeah, to kind of answer Scotty's question, just having a different sense. I get it. You all explained it perfectly. Cool. Having different senses, it helps. Quite similar. Let me see where we're at. When it comes to reincarnation, we already did that one. Could appear to you alone? Okay. All right. I think we're all out of questions. If you guys want to help Odugo out, there is light at the end of the tunnel. She is getting her apartment, but we need help just, getting her stuff back and getting her life back together the way it was supposed to be. Odugo, there's an ilu that says that there's nothing the eyes will see that will cause it to bleed, right? And I know you've gone through a lot, but everything you've gone through, I strongly believe you were built for, and not in the sense that you were just built to suffer or whatever, but have what it takes to overcome it, right? In a small amount of time I've known you, I see that, and I see that once we get over this particular bridge, a lot of wonderful things are going to come from your end. So I want to take this ilu, dedicate it to your progress, okay? As always, Igadi, Igeto, Gobala, Itiriaka, Ogade, Yowa, Ogade, Otua, Neke, na Urie, na Afo, na Nkwo. He said, awesome. All right, Udugo, I'm looking forward to everything you have to offer us in the future. If you guys want to help her out, I put a link to the GoFundMe up there. That being said, best way to support the channel is patreon.com /the Medicine Shell. Patrons have access to my library. We'll also have the group study there and the Odinani calendar that tells you what moon we're under and which market day we're in. Like it links with your calendar and stuff. So all that's good stuff. Guys, videos are coming soon. I'm not doing any videos this month. I'm trying to catch up because before I used to have like one video in the tuck and then I would just make others. But now I'm like, I found myself like chasing video after video and it's very stressful. So I'm trying to make as many as possible before I start re-releasing them. And I'll be releasing new videos in February. And yeah, okay. All right, Odugo, thanks for coming. Cachifa.